Hello and welcome to the show. 3 more vehicles are going to be taking on the Wreckoning today, and yes, as you may notice, there has been some changes. Now, these are purely visual changes, and a big thank you to Evil McSheep for the work done on making this map look a lot more detailed, a lot prettier with some of the stuff around. However, the basic track itself is unchanged. So all of the obstacles are still exactly the same as they were. All of the potholes and jumps and whatnot are as we have seen before, so it is not going to affect the vehicle's survivability. It is kind of purely a visual upgrade. We are starting today with an ETK, the 800 series. Now, these modern ETKs are notorious for having weak wheels, weak suspension. Now, there was an update that improved them quite considerably over the first vehicles that ran around, or the early vehicles that ran around the Baja Rama circuit. However, it's still a concern because this track is an utter wheel and suspension killer, so we have got to be wary of that. What the ETK does have going for it is all-wheel drive, and it has got a decent amount of speed. This is a mid-tier 1 6-cylinder, not turbocharged, not crazy powerful, but should have more than enough poke to get it over the jumps, no problem. As we are coming up to the first of our jumps here, we are going to be over, across, absolutely perfectly, in fact. Now, we have lost the front bumper. The radiator, not the strongest on this car, and we are likely to see that go fairly early on, but if this car goes out from just overheating alone, that would be a relative surprise. Now, with the new map... Oh, there goes the radiator. Yeah, as I said, it's likely to go quite early. Well done, going on cue. With these sort of new updates, with a few more kind of buildings around the place, I will extend the kind of rule regarding reversing. Now, I'm not allowed to reverse if a car is failing to make a corner simply because of steering. However, I am allowed to reverse if a car has hit a jump awkwardly and bounced itself in towards a building. Like down Pothole Alley, for example. A car hits one of them, gets turned into the fence. It is allowed to reverse to get itself out of trouble, and we will be allowed to do that around other places here as well. That's a big impact. That was a little bit too fast. That was a little bit too fast for that. I say a little bit too fast for that jump. It cleared the jump perfectly, but it was the landing. We landed very, very heavily on the front right, although interestingly, while it is buckled, it is still working. The rear left is gone completely. The front left is in still relatively good condition. Now, the problem we've got here is that we still need to be able to pick up enough speed to clear these jumps, and with the wheels pulling the car around, that does become increasingly difficult to achieve. We are not going to be last place, though, in this. We've gone further than the Satsuma, and... oh! The Rock's got the fuel tank. Now, we have not seen that ever before on a vehicle. Fuel tank is gone. Oh, will the car break down? Will it catch fire? Or will the fuel tank leaking be the death of it? That would be a really... That is a failure we have never seen before on Driven Till Destruction or on on the Wreckoning. As we're going to run down here, the potholes are going to get gradually worse as we get down to the bottom there. We've got a lot of sparks coming off the front of the car. I don't know what's dragging. I imagine it must be the exhaust. However, I'm not sure. I think we're going to run out of fuel very, very quickly. That fuel tank is draining. Oh, there's a sound of fire. I think it's just the fuel igniting on the ground behind us as we head up across the bridge. We need to get a move on. We need to get a move on indeed, as I say that. Oh, no, we're fine. We've still got that. Might have broken the steering. I think we might have lost front right. We may have lost the front right steering. We've lost power. Oh, everything's exploded. We lost power big time coming over the jump. I don't know what happened. I know we were getting out of fuel, but we weren't out of fuel when we took that jump. We lost power. The entire thing has just gone up in flames. That is an interesting failure. That is a really interesting failure. That is not one that we have really seen before in that manner. The broken suspension meant the car was running so low and was dragging on the floor so much as we took across the rocks, it took out the fuel tank. Now, we've seen drive shafts and wheels and tyres and so on hit there. We've not had a fuel tank taken out, and then the tank, I guess it might have leaked fuel onto something that caused the fire? So something's gone very badly wrong with this car. Something caused, I think, issues slightly before we ran out of fuel, and it lost all of its power going up the hill. and it's just burst into flames. Well, it did make it off the first lap. The wheels survived off the first lap, and we do actually still kind of have steering-ish on one part of it. But that is the 800 series out in spectacular style. Well, the 800 series may be a rather tough act to follow. However, it is down to the Legrand to try and impress us around here. Now, I've gone for a little bit of a higher spec model. This one, it has got the V6, not a crazy turbocharged engine, but should have an okay amount of power. It is, though, a front-wheel drive, which is perhaps not the, or certainly not the most preferred of drivelines, especially around this track, perhaps a little bit more than the Baja Rama circuit, with a lot of potential heavy damage done to the front of these vehicles across jumps. All it takes is one of the front wheels to get broken and buckled in this car, and you can be in trouble. Although, if I remember rightly, the Legrand will have one-wheel drive, and it will keep going. Unlike most vehicles, the diff will allow it in this car. So, we might well have the car crawling around with one-wheel drive for some time. We will have to wait and see. The rear suspension in this thing does tend to be quite interesting as well. It does tend to brake and bounce the car around a lot, if I remember rightly. We will have to wait and see on that front. Ooh, there goes the radiator. Couldn't quite pick up the speed in this car. We are boinging around a lot, quite uncontrollably over there. However, yeah, I mean, we're still going, and importantly, the suspension hasn't collapsed in the same way that it did in the ETK. So our fuel tank, I'm now slightly more concerned about fuel tanks being ruptured in that place. We've also seen it with cars like the fuel tank rupture on the ETK. Must have been like a complete and utter catastrophic one, because I've seen ruptures that are a lot slower leaking than that one. Have we got acceleration up here? Oh, it's going to be quite slow. It's going to be quite slow up there, and we are going to be in, I think, a little bit of bother potentially with our speed. Come on, car. There we go. Over we go. Still got steering though. Yep, that is the important bit. It's not looking great at the front. In fact, the way that the front of the vehicle is being bent down does give me some cause for concern. We haven't actually seen a car go out yet from a completely buckled chassis, which I'm slightly surprised by. I'm surprised that there hasn't been a car that's chassis has been so buckled that it physically couldn't make it around the course. I mean, we've had kind of cars with wheel axle failure that's sort of a little bit like that, but yeah, it's not something we've really seen. Oh dear. We are losing power drastically now in this car. In fact, this one here is actually being a little bit more of a tougher car to roll over. Oddly, no, silly Legrand. Come back. I'm surprised, but it doesn't seem like the heaviest car in the world to me. The trucks is understandable, but this thing, not quite so much. Right, we are back and pointing in the right direction. A little bit of time wasted and all of that. Won't be doing the radiator any good. Okay, here we go. The now slightly scary river. We're through, though, this time. No excess damage done. I do wonder how much, though, we've got... What was starting out as relatively okay in terms of power has gone in this car. A relatively okay amount of straight line speed is evaporating slightly. I think the way that the wheels are angled, it's now really struggling to put any of its power down, and it just wants to spin the wheels. But it wants to spin the wheels like a maniac on the most part. Now, we do still have enough steering here. We can still run down this, we can just about still run down this side. It's pulling me a bit more to the left than I was expecting it to be. Hey, we've just spat out all of our hubcaps. It's all gone. But we are on to our second lap with the Legrand. Now, we have had one jump. No, we're going to go for a roll over here, are we? Well, you wanted to get an extra roll in, just for just for showmanship, I think. There, that one jump in. Oh, we've got real ground clearance issues and diff issues and so on. And yeah, what's going on with that front suspension? Front suspension is causing no end of problems. Right there. That's very, very peculiar. Well, it's throwing us around a bit. Can we get the speed required to clear this killing jump? Lap 2 on this jump has seen many, many cars' death. Not all because of the jump, like the 800 series. Other things factor into that car's death a lot more than the actual jump. But, yeah, come on, Legrand. We can... Oh, we're not going to make this. We are not going to make this one here nicely. We might still be drivable. It's a big impact. That's a heavy hit on the front of the car. Do we still have steering? Yes, we do. Amazingly, we are still working. That is a brutal impact to have survived. That is a real brutal impact. The problem is now they're all going to be, because we're not going to make this jump here, for example. That's going to be a clonk on the floor. Still, we limp on. The chassis is in tatters at the front. The front is just so bent up. Something just gave way. I fear it might have been steering. Have we lost steering? No, we've still got steering. Oh, the front left's gone. I thought I heard something going. That's going to be a broken car. In fact, interestingly, the diff isn't... Oh, it's kind... No, it's not actually letting the wheels spin anyway, so it's not even going to be able to try and drag its way over there. It was spectacular, and I will, give Legrand big credit. That took 2 massive hits across jumps that would normally kill cars, quite frankly, and it kept on going. In the end, it was just a normal corner. It was just a small bump that was the final straw to snapping that front left wheel axle. We lost drive, and that is, well, yeah, gonna be game over. How buckled the front of that chassis is just goes to show the struggles and the damage that the Legrand took. Still, though, it has made it a decent way on its second lap. Our final vehicle for today is one that just might be able to challenge that Evo 9. This is the Caldera. Now, a Caldera led at the Baja Rama circuit for quite some time, the Daytona variant. This perhaps not likely to be quite as strong. It doesn't have the great big nose cone at the front to absorb all the damage in the same way, but still likely to be a very, very tough vehicle. There are a couple of concerns, though, and the ETK have kind of driven those home. That is the fuel tank right there, and that is quite exposed. That is quite the quite the exposed underside, especially on the big brutal jumps that we have around here. In many ways, I was surprised that the Moonhawk didn't go up in flames, whereas it did at the Baja circuit. This, yeah, the fuel tank could cause a problem. The fuel tank goes up now. I haven't seen cars leak as quickly as the ETK before necessarily. But if the fuel tank of this goes up, running out of fuel is perhaps the least of the car's concern. It's if the fire gets the rear tyres. Then we will struggle with traction, and then we will struggle to make jumps, and then there will be a lot of damage applied to this vehicle. Speed-wise, there seems plenty in the Caldera. That was relatively easy. 50 miles an hour to clear the jump. It's not, again, not a crazy, horrendously overpowered monster of an engine in this. It's plenty of power to get it across the jumps, and perhaps not too not too horrendous for the overheating. If the radiator goes on this, it might not overheat too quickly. There's some sort of visual damage. I think we might have done a little bit of suspension. The rear axle does look quite low. I've got to be a bit more aware, potentially, of that when it comes to crossing the river, especially with the fuel tank in this one as a potential exposed target. If it will go from the impacts of jumps, which is what it was doing at the Baja circuit, here across the horrible river, there's always potential. However, it is nicely done actually across that next jump. Here is a bit of a brutal one for the cars to batter across. Not too bad though. Not too bad. For an opening lap, the Caldera is looking in pretty good nick, although we get a bit of oversteer. That's not quite what we wanted to be doing down there. A little bit of oversteer up across the tabletop, and then we have the pit to negotiate next. Plenty of speed coming up towards it. We are going to slightly tap the rear of the car on the way down. Nothing major. It certainly is looking a little bit second-hand. In fact, I think we actually started to twist the chassis ever so slightly, which is not great. Yeah, it's looking a bit second-hand on the old bodywork front. Probably wouldn't be very structurally sound by the end of an opening lap here. The most important thing, though, is mechanically, everything is good. Steering, perfect. Radiator hasn't gone. Tyres are okay, and the fuel tank is all in one piece. As we round these banked corners, now we should have... Oh, God, careful now. No problems with the... Oh, I say that. something has broken in the steering. I don't know where that went. We've taken big steering damage for... I don't know where. Where's the steering gone? It's... the front left has been just buckled in. Did a pothole catch it? I don't know. That's very peculiar. Okay, so we are not in as good a mechanical condition as I had hoped. We've got a big twist on the front left wheel. Now, we do seem to have still got plenty of steering to make it around the corners, and we still have plenty of acceleration to make it up towards the jumps. But that is a little bit more uncomfortable than I would have liked and, you know, potentially expected the Caldera to have been around this circuit. Here we go. Lap 2. The infamous lap 2 trip across the jump is a little bit awkward. With our slight lack of control on the car, very hard to precisely position the vehicle. That's a really difficult, slight phrase to say. That's really not good. That's really not good at all for the Caldera. That's ripped off the front left. The whole front left corner of the car, in fact, is gone from that. And that was me just trying to fight the car to bring it back round again. We might have... okay, we have steering issues, but it's not completely gone. I think we can still probably bring this one back onto the road. Yes, we can. Now, the wheel that's wobbling is... It's wobbling, and of course it's going to be dragging us around a little bit, but it isn't completely folded under. It's not making the car completely undrivable, so that's promising. It's promising, well, for the Caldera in terms of continuing onwards. We've never seen a roll across, across that jump before. That is a new one. It was a vicious landing on the front left corner. Amazingly, the radiator hasn't got in this car yet. We should have the speed to make it here, but we don't really have the control. We can skid along on our roof. That's actually perfectly fine by me. I'd rather it did that than land in the in the way that it did across the previous jump. If it was going to roll, it was going to land, sorry, awkwardly, I would much rather it land in a way that'll skid along its roof. The downside with that is we have slightly flattened the car. It is now the Flatmobile in many ways, and that's probably not great in terms of fuel tank survival. The suspension damage is now quite considerable in the Caldera. That's... okay, maybe it's not quite as terrible as I thought it was. We've got steering problems going on across the tabletop. I'm really now struggling to get the car to turn. We are just about keeping it on the circuit. If the wheel... I want the front left to fall off, quite frankly. I'd rather see that front left fall off than doing what it's doing at the moment. We are still across there. Is that the door? Is that a fender that we're spitting out? I think it might be a fender that we're going to spit out at some point around here. Now, this might not be much fun. I don't have much steering to change my course across there. We just kind of plow through and hope for the best. Yeah, whatever went on with that front left wheel earlier, it was around this point. Something didn't quite feel right as I headed on to... I thought it was just me driving the car like a moron, but something didn't quite feel right as I headed around. It was this second part, this banking here, didn't quite feel right, and then, yeah, notice how much it was flapping and pulling around as we headed down here. Now, I have not got much steering to fight with. We've not got much control over what the Caldera does down here. If we can make it down here in one piece, that would be a good showing, and it is. It is through all of there cleanly with that wheel flapping around. It's going to make a third lap. I'm not sure we're going to beat the Evo, quite frankly. The radiator hasn't gone, but I'm fairly confident that we're going to lose steering at some point. It's struggling on. It's still got the speed. Most importantly, you can quite clearly see it's still got the speed to accelerate away. It's still got the speed to make the jumps. It's whether we twist. It's whether we twist on takeoff and have a very awkward landing and snap a wheel off, or whether we can even position it. This is bad news. This is very bad news for the Caldera. Come on, use that power. Use that power. Launch yourself across. Well done, Caldera. That is what we wanted to see. There was a little bit of panic and a little bit of hope involved there, but it made it across. It had the speed. It's that acceleration is so helpful in this. Again, second gear. Launch it across the ramp. That's what killed the steering last time out. Oh, that jump, that crest caused the problems. We are bouncing around. It's still going. It's still going. The Caldera does not want to be defeated by this circuit. Oh, that crest there is horrible. Throws the car out. We are really, really struggling. Are we going to be able to use the handbrake to get it around? We will. Yeah, the way the car goes over that crest just sort of spits it out wide, and when you've got when you've got steering damage already, that is a problem for sure. How long can we keep this up? How long can we keep it up with this? It'll go, I think, until if the front left at some point betrays us, if it suddenly jerks the car to the side across one of the big jumps, and I either have to lift to try and get it under control, or it twists us like we saw last time across here, still twisting us, we've still got steering, incredibly. Oh, that's more damage. We really don't want any more damage being applied to the front right. That front right wheel is now our last lifeline, essentially, in this car. We've made it, though. We have made it. Oh, up the hill we go, struggling. Again, it's again these crests that are causing the car to have this tremendous amount of, well, I guess understeer as we go up there. But we're back on the course once more. Can we clear the pit with blinding speed? It's getting tighter and tighter each lap around. We have made it, though. Incredibly, the fuel tank has survived. I was not expecting that necessarily from the Caldera. Okay, lap 4 beckons. Lap 4 beckons. We've got to get across these horrible, horrible, sort of underside destroying rocks, which we have done. And then these little bumps that, while normally aren't a big concern to a car, with this... all it takes is an awkward bump and an awkward landing on that front right wheel, and it is game over now. And that sort of section can cause it. This next pothole alley is another place that can cause it, because I'm really struggling actually to get the car even around here. I don't have the steering to fight it, to put the car exactly where you want it to be down here, so it's going to take a battering. Keeps on going. Keeps on going. Lap 4 is beckoning for the Caldera. It does make it. This is a brilliant, brilliant showing. This is a brilliant showing from the car. I said it might do well, and it has. I thought we were in trouble when that wheel went so early on. To have lasted for as long as it has with a wheel down is outstanding. We're going to go further. The Miramar overheated just as it came onto the bridge. Come on, Caldera. We've got to get across this jump another time. We've got to get across this jump another time. You made it. You made it work on that last approach. Here we go. We are good for speed, good for the landing. Still it works. Still it works around this track. Oh, come on now, front left. Do not betray me. You've actually been very well behaved when it comes to all of the big jumps. Do not betray me now. It's enough across there. The fender, I'm very surprised actually the way that the fenders are holding on in this car is I'm worried they're going to go underneath the car and the car is going to start chewing them up. However, they are still holding on for now. But yeah, it's only a just holding on. Yeah, I think the way that hill is banked is what's causing the issue. The way that you end up hitting it trying to get the turn in with the car as broken as it is, that is what is causing the problem. Well, we have got only a little bit further to go to beat the Grand Marshal. If we can survive the landing of this next jump, we will beat the Grand Marshal. This is the jump that killed the Grand Marshal's steering on its 4th lap around. Will it do a similar thing to the Caldera, or will we make it across here? Oh, it's twisting, it's twisting, it's twisting. It's gone. It's got, in fact, is a lot bigger concerns than just... Well, we are actually, helpfully, still pointing in the right direction. The steering is gone, but the car is pointing in the right direction. It's... It's now ghosting its way further. Come on, Caldera. I've got no control over the steering, but it's still going. That's going to be... oh, no. Using the brakes, I've actually managed to get it turned a little bit. That's going to be an off into the scenery, and nothing we can do. That was a lot more damage than just steering, though, that's gone in it. That is the entire chassis that is at an angle. It took an utter battering. We lost a wheel, and in the end, it was just that lack of control. The struggles in trying to keep this car straight and carry enough speed would be the death of it. Really, just can't able to take perfect jumps at time and time again. You'll end up leaving them a little bit wonky, a little bit twisted, a little bit out of position, and just the repeated damagings would take the Caldera out. There's not much... There's not much left there, I'll be honest. There's not much left there of a car. But, nevertheless, that is a second place, and it is... Well, it has been a day of spectacular, spectacular cars. So on to our results map, and it was a very strong showing, as you might expect, from the Caldera. It will go into second place, just beating out the Grand Marshal. The steering failed, the chassis was completely buckled in the same impact. Had the steering not failed, I don't think that car was very long for this world either way, because yeah, the whole thing was twisted up, but it managed to roll and coast its way just that little bit further than the Grand Marshal to take a second place. Still some way off the Evo 9. The Legrand actually did pretty damn well to make it as far as it did. It beat the FRM Sunburst. It beat the collection of vehicles that are broken on our first main jump on the second time of asking. I mean, it took a horrendous impact that probably did most of the damage, but it kept going for a couple more corners before a relatively innocuous bump took out the wheel axle. So yeah, not too bad at all for that vehicle. We still need a name for this first utter car-destroying bump. The ETK 800 series is a new failure to this series, in fact, to any of the destruction series that I ever done. A ruptured fuel tank caused by, well, collapsed suspension running across the rocks, punched the fuel tank, obviously quite extensively compared to the muscle cars that have tended to have sort of small leaks on the fuel tank that have caused fires. The ETK just dumped all of its fuel out around a couple of corners and then, yeah, crashed at the jump. It was the car running out of fuel. At the very last bit of the gauge went incredibly quickly. I didn't notice it when I was actually filming, but it was the tiniest bit of the gauge dropped down at the very end very, very fast, and it lost power as it kind of crashed over the jump. I don't know how it burst into flames, having had all the fuel dropped all over the road, but yeah, it was certainly a spectacle from the 800 series. However, it does go further than the Ibitrum B2, only slightly. They're both having issues at that section, but yeah, the 800 series did kind of roll, coast, boing, and flame its way a smidge further than the Bitron around here. To be fair, for it being the fuel tank to go on the 800 series is actually slightly more impressive. That the wheels were likely to be a failure area, but that wasn't the case. That, however, is going to be it for this episode. As ever, I shall link all of the mods in the description so you can download them, have a go with them yourself. But that's going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.